What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Keith and Mike Watch Deep Space Nine. Mike, I am excited to talk about this episode. I'm excited to do this little show with you, but I have to confess something, Mike. Right off the top, there's somebody who is not excited about us doing this show, and that's my cat, Charlie, who really wants to play right this very minute and is just not here for YouTube series right now.
Well, it is Halloween, Keith, so he's a black cat, so I'm sure that he's got very specific things he wants to get done today, and you messing around on the computer is not one of them.
Me messing around on the computer is never one of them.
Okay,
well. You know, it's to be fair, I get it. It's annoying. It's boring. I'm frequently recording vocals, so I'm like skrelting out of nowhere. Right into his little window above my desk, where he can go out into the window well and be taunted by the squirrels. But yeah, if you hear Charlie complaining about this stupid show, that's what you're hearing. There's not a cat being tortured behind me. He is merely internally tortured by boredom.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I don't really know how to respond to that. He's not wrong.
Well, it's Halloween. It's Halloween, and we are talking about Deep Space Nine, Season 2, Episode 10, Sanctuary. Lots to talk about here in this episode. But before we do, we have to do our traditional thank yous, Mike.
Yes, we'd like to thank our patrons.
Yes.
The few, the proud, the fiscally supportive of us.
Yeah, fiscally irresponsible for themselves, but supportive to us.
Brian Kaufman, Casey, Clark, Clout, Lover, 69. Jason Moe, Andrew Hayes, Jorge Navarro.
Andrew Hayes, our new friend.
Hey, Andrew, what's up?
Welcome aboard.
Andrew's been with us, but he's
yes.
really with us. Now he's
super with us.
Inextricably linked on the internet. You can't get this down.
He is fiscally tied. When he runs for president, there will be questions.
Yeah. Jorge Navoa and the mysterious, and he paid in Canadian funds, so it looked more expensive. It looked like Jorge Navoa and the mysterious, and Worf's Boot Shivs. Thank you so much, Worf's Boot Shivs. One of my greatest creations. Keith, I'm 42 years old almost, and nothing out of my head has been better than Worf's Boot Shivs. Anyway, CRM
indeed.
Productions, Charles Babbage at Grim_Toys, and Delusions at Noon. There they are, folks. You want to be one of them. I know you do. You get all kinds of cool stuff. You get me watching Deep Space Nine. You get us answering questions that people ask. Anything, in fact, that they ask. They get us watching animated series, of which there are a few more we got to watch, Keith. I've been told. I got a list of the best animated series episodes, so we got to watch those.
Yeah.
You also get... maybe Mike's going to start watching Star Trek Prodigy and or Lower Decks any day now. I'm torn. You also get special unboxings, such as the Michael Myers, which we'll be doing very shortly. And yes, there it is. I'm so excited. We got to get to it. And also my time capsule of Dick Tracy toys, which hasn't been opened in air since 1994. It's in my closet. Haven't even undone the latch. I don't know what. Hopefully they're in there. I did shake it a little bit. So you can join.
Right. It's probably just your old, dirty magazines on VHS or whatever.
Most importantly, going to cut that right off. Most importantly, you get to be a producer on the show. Keith and I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Patreon.com/K&M.
All right. Now it is time to talk about this episode. Now, folks, this aired on November 18th, 1993. Here we are. It was the Thanksgiving season of 1993, but a lot had changed. You know, the leaves were falling, winter was approaching. We were deep into the holiday season, but you know what didn't change? Our top song, Mike. Do you remember what it was?
And I would do anything to sing on the internet, though people ask me not to. Oh, I would do anything to sing, especially to Keith.
Yes, and nothing I enjoy more.
Oof.
Oof. You know,
I disrespected some people with that.
No, but you were entirely in tune. I'm not sure you're in focus, but you were in
Am I
tune.
drifting out of focus?
I think you are drifting out of
you know
focus,
what?
or perhaps it's just bad internet. But you know, I want my mic crisp as can be on my computer
give me a
screen.
Gaussian blur, please. help me help myself.
No, we can't. We're you know what? We're going to see each other in person tomorrow.
Yes, we are. Keith,
we're going to go see a strange loop on Broadway. Yeah, I mean, people usually don't bring their wives to our dates, but you know, you're bringing your wife. I like it.
Yeah, All right. Things we're going to talk about on Geekly coming up, our new show. In fact, if you want a Halloween special treat, we got a nice episode of Geekly, and Keith and I next week might be talking. I don't know if this week we're going to do wrestling or we're going to do sports and musical theater. So that's really going to be a winner.
We're nothing if not eclectic.
Yeah. All
and
right.
speaking of eclectic, and speaking of what was recently on Broadway, our top movie was Mrs. Doubtfire.
Oh, it was a run by Fruiting, Keith.
It was a run by Fruiting. So if we weren't watching Mrs. Doubtfire on the big screen for the first time, what were we watching on TV?
You said this was the 19th?
No, the 28th.
Oh, I got that completely wrong. Hold on. I'm going to tell you. Hold on.
Very much a different number entirely.
November 20th. Keith, I was 2 weeks into my 13th year on this planet. Really a great one. Really, really loving it. Well, of course, we had Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, Keith, which everybody knows was a big hit. That was the Pheromone My Lovely was the name of that episode.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Fun.
The ABC movie that night was There Are No Children Here. We had Murder, She Wrote, Love and Hate in Cabot Cove. We had, CBS bringing the big guns, Keith, 9 o'clock. The movie that night was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. A little Connery.
Yes.
Connery for your almost...
Sean Connery.
Yep. And then we had Living Single, Married with Children and the Fox Block. And then we had, of course, Bonanza the Return Part 2, Keith, as we're following up from last week, getting that second part. So that's what was on prime time on the networks that evening.
Wow, lots of good stuff. Now it's time to get into the hard news.
Yeah.
And something is interesting about the hard news this week. And I had to go back and I was like, huh? And I went and I double checked and make sure I had the right issue and the right week. And I had to go back a couple weeks ago and double check, hey, was that also the right week? But as it turns out, because in the hard news, there's no mistakes. Clearly, what happened was once again, 1963 plane crash survivors were found. So this is not a repetition of the article because they would never do that. They found another 1963 plane crash with survivors. Weird. It's really serendipitous that this happened.
It's great.
2 weeks
really
apart.
Great news. Yeah. Thank God.
But yeah, I mean, it's great. They both sets lived on a Gilligan's Island paradise for 30 years.
Now,
it's
Keith,
amazing.
quick, before you continue, I do want to point out, people might have learned from Geekly a couple weeks ago, I have a thing with feet. I don't like to be barefoot, but maybe there's someone who did like to be barefoot.
Well, it depends on what she stepped on, because a woman has taste buds on the bottoms of her feet. And to be perfectly honest, I haven't stepped in a lot of things I'd like to taste lately.
No, unless it's gum. That's your only shot. Unless you step on gum, because the dog shit really isn't going to be.
Somebody's used gum that they've chewed on and has been rotting. Well, that's going to be.
If you compare that to the stuff she's generally probably tasting, that's a treat.
That's fair. Also, lady vampires demand their own blood bank. It seems reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
And killer lightning bugs are headed our way. So, lots of big important news on November 28th, 1993. Shall we talk about this episode?
Let's do it.
This episode was directed by Les Landau, who last directed Invasive Procedures. It was written as a teleplay by Frederick Rappaport, who last wrote on Move Along Home, and a story by Gabe Esso and Kelly Miles Wolfe, both of whom was their only Trek, so it seems it was probably a pitch. All right, so Trivial Trivia, what do you say?
So. I'm glad to hear there was a woman writing on this episode. Glad to hear that.
Yes. Well, at least came up with the story. Now, Keith, waste your time with Trivial Trivia. All right, so this one, there's a couple of interesting casting moments here on this show because we're casting in the family. Kitty Swink, who plays Minister Roseanne, is Armin Shimmerman's wife.
Oh, cool.
So Quark's wife got a gig on the show. And not only that, but her son, Andrew Tumak, is played by Andrew Koenig, son of Walter Koenig, Chekhov.
Huh. Okay.
So this whole thing is a family affair this week.
Man, he really looked like somebody. It wasn't that I didn't know, but it's clearly not who I thought. Okay, continuing.
Might want to look like somebody. I don't know why I had that in my head. Anyway, the Skrreean ship.
I want to taste the feet of somebody.
Wow, I'm so sorry, world. This
is why we have to have podcasts, because no one outside a very sliver of niche people want to hear this.
No, and I'm not even sure they do, but they tolerate it for other reasons, I'm assuming.
Well, once you hit play, I mean, you're pot committed.
I mean, we're definitely like
Star Trek. Yeah, I'm in. I love that show. Click. Oh man, that's not even what this is.
You know what it is? Like, we're definitely second or third screen for whomever is watching or listening to this.
Just like real small on your watch. That's the best. That's the best. That's the best
and
location.
We're like, you know how like the podcasts that do a really good job of integrating their ads, it's not worth it to skip them,
right?
Because you're listening and like, oh man, I done whatever. I think we're the equivalent of that. We're just like, I want to skip them, but whatever. There's enough there. Let's put in new information. Anyway, the Skrreean ship is a reuse of the Promelian battle cruiser from Booby Trap of Next Generation. And lastly, William Schallert, who plays Varani, the musician, played Nils Barris on the original series Trouble with Tribbles. So you are in the family of Trek performers from the original series. And guess what? We didn't know it yet, but Trouble with Tribbles is a very important episode for Deep Space Nine.
Oh, interesting. That guy is one of those guys who's been in everything. You see him and like, oh yeah, he's in everything.
Done a lot of stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, so including multiple generations of Star Trek. Not multiple episodes, generations. All right, so let's talk about what was The Next Generation doing. One of my favorite episodes of The Next Gen, they were doing Parallels, in which Worf is thrown between a bunch of parallel universes. Where it starts to be like a little mystery, where all of this stuff starts to being a little bit different, and then more and more different. Great episode. Our guest stars this week, get ready. We have William Schallert as Varani, Andrew Koenig as Tumak, Aaron Eisenberg as Nog, Michael Durrell as Hazar, Betty McGuire as Vanya, Robert Curtis Brown as Sarad, Kitty Swink as Roseanne, Deborah May as Hanik, Leland Orser as Guy, who has one more character on Deep Space Nine, one on Voyager, and one on Enterprise. He's basically a glorified extra here, but he will do a lot more Trek moving forward. And Nicholas Schaefer as Cowell. Mike, are you ready to hop into the room?
I guess it's time.
I think it's time.
I guess it's time.
All right, let's do it.
He thought this was a good idea. This is like a good warm-up.
I mean, to be fair, I probably should warm up before episodes, especially of this one, because my voice gets tired.
I actually went for a jog today, just for all of our patrons out there, people watching.
Patrons?
As a favor, because I didn't want to be snotting I have this cold I cannot shake, and so I went out for a run because that seems to get me flowing, so I could just like snot it all out before I got on camera. You're welcome. Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your candy.
We have some gummy candies. Oh, golly.
Ooh, all right.
All right, so here we are on Deep Space Nine, Season 2, Episode 10, Sanctuary. We begin in Sisko's office, and Kira hasn't done her homework.
Somebody's been naughty.
Sisko teases her about battling with Bajoran ministers. He good bosses her and says, look, you can shout at the ministers all you want, but, do your job. Then O'Brien says Quark has been looking for her. Another good example. Like, Sisko is like, I understand, I'm the cool boss, but also get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate that.
She's been busy using her strings to get somebody a job, but we'll get there.
That's right. She goes to Quark's to see someone playing the Deep Space Nine theme song on a goofy flute.
Synthesize. He's Deep Space Kenny G.
Literally, it's in the next paragraph.
Nice.
So, he's really mellowing the vibe in the bar, and even Morn is crying.
Yeah, that was a good beat.
But maybe he has a Federation girlfriend?
They were also like, let's not spend a lot of money on the synthesizer sound effect, but let's get all these extras. Like, look at that alien in the back there. It's rad. And we have a 20s flapper.
That's right. We flappers, and we saw that alien last episode.
We also get a revisit of the trash heads later.
Yes, we did. I wrote that down too. Oh, we have so much important stuff to talk about.
All right, Rom, bring red to table 3, blue goes to table 12, and green stays right here.
Connect 4.
Yeah.
Also,
Morn has a cute date. Did you notice that?
That's what I just said. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Morn's got a girlfriend.
Mm-hmm. He's also got a 6-pack or a 6-pack jacket.
I need one of those. Yeah. I can't have a 6-pack, but I can have a 6-pack. Maybe I'll wear a 6-pack jacket to
doubles as a life preserver.
That's true. Yeah, well, but there it is. Yeah, see, I'm telling you, Morn's got a girlfriend.
Yeah, well, he's
good for him.
I'm not going to say any of the. I workshopped 3 jokes in my head and opted out of all.
You aborted every time. All right, I just aborted a joke in my own.
Nailed it.
I had a Herschel Walker joke lined up.
Yeah, me too. Just because of what that clip I sent you. Wow.
Oh, wow. Okay. Anyway.
Man, try living in Pennsylvania. 90% of my television right now is just not just political ads. I can deal with political ads. I like politics. Well, who likes it? But Keith. But these are like, because I'm in Pennsylvania, a swing state. These are the most far left and far right commercials you can imagine. There is just hyperbole on a level. Anyway, we're back.
Look, I went to a rally on Saturday. That's right. I got to hang out with Cory Booker for a while. That was fun.
We should book it back to the episode.
Yes, we should. All right. So, Quark is naturally pissed about the vibe in the bar. Nobody's gambling or eating. And his complaint actually is fair. It is a bar.
Yeah.
And it's like, is a place of business.
You got a bar and you buy a jukebox, but it's all Adele songs. You'd be like, oh boy, this is not what I ordered. This is not good for business.
Hello, it's me. Please order another beer.
You want to dance?
All right.
All right.
Oh God, we're a mess already. So apparently Kira set it up, and Quark agreed to try him for a month. You're going to try somebody for a month? Kira goes up and asks Kenny G for something more exciting. He's apparently a famous classical musician, and the classical venues were destroyed during the occupation, so he has nowhere to play. Kira promises to try and help. Now, if the occupation was 40 years, right? So he must have been very young before the occupation, might have been a musical prodigy.
Which tracks, because when you see the hologram of him later, it definitely looks different. And they're like, we got to explain that away.
Well, look, if I'm going to have a hologram of me, I want the 28-year-old version of me, not the 42-year-old.
Yeah, it's like when you're on Zoom and it gives you that option. It's like, do you want us to make your skin look better? And you're like, why? It's Zoom. But then you're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, all right.
Do what you can.
Fine.
Help me out.
That's fine. Yeah, hold on. Can I change the aspect ratio of this? Just squeeze myself in just a little bit, just a touch around the edges.
Keith, is that you?
Yeah. Exactly. Hey, look, it's 2010, Keith.
It looks like a headshot from 98. All right.
I have some of those. What's happening? Oh, back on ops. A ship comes through the wormhole, and it's about to explode, as they're contractually obligated to do the minute they get to Deep Space Nine. And they beam aboard some folks who look very frightened. And that becomes the end of the teaser. We begin Act 1 in media res. We just continue straight in. Sisko says they're going to try to help them. And they start talking. When they start talking, the universal translator isn't working yet, which you'd think would happen way more often. The universal translator is a little too universally perfect, usually on the show. But I really liked how it didn't work this time, especially they're coming from the other quadrant. So the languages would be much less overlap in it. So it made a lot of sense. The lead lady makes it very clear that they are Skrreeans. And Sisko is like She-Ra, but she skis.
Right, yeah. She's like the alpine sister of He-Man.
Right, Skrreeans. But I read it as Skrreeans, which I prefer. Sisko tells Kira to take them to the infirmary because based on literally nothing, he thinks they're going to be more comfortable with her.
Okay, I'm glad you picked that up too. Later in the episode, it all makes sense. Like that instinct makes sense, but they did not play that in the scene.
Well, that Sisko had read the script.
Oh, right.
Ahead of time. He prepares, so he already knows that they have a matriarchal society.
The reason she was talking to Kira is because Kira's the only person who was talking to them. So
no, exactly. But I think mainly he's just like, I don't want to deal with this. Mike, they really like you so much, Mike.
Oh,
why don't you go deal?
It's because I gave them candy. Dude in the back there, whose name I will never pronounce, so I'm not even gonna try.
I think you should try.
He read this. He was like, "Oh my god, I booked a gig! Yeah! Let me read." Oh, I just grunt the whole time and act a fool.
He has lines.
Yeah, it gets real meaty later, Keith. Real meaty.
Real meaty. So Kira leads them onto the promenade. Odo tries to keep them together, but they'll only listen to Kira. They immediately go to the gift shop and start touching everything like children. Giant square hair lady yells at them. She's the boss of the three young men. After Bashir patches up a burn.
Also, like, why are they sniffing it and stuff? They're not feral.
They certainly behave like they're feral.
And then later she's like, why does nobody want to hang out with me? I was like, because you're acting like a dog.
Yeah, I mean the men just behave like 5-year-olds. It's not like you have a matriarchal society where you have a sort of like one has more power than the other. They're like literally like children.
Yeah, like I have so many. There's a lot of questions, but
I mean, certainly could happen. We don't know. Genetically speaking, they may actually literally be dumber. But
yes, it could be a lot of things. I think that's a failing of the episode that we don't have any clarity on that.
Not whatsoever.
Because if you're going to make a choice like that, which I think is really interesting in juxtaposition to the matriarchal society theme, could be really interesting. But if you don't say or do anything, we just see what we see, which is very caricature-y. It comes off like a joke that isn't funny.
I don't quite know.
We'll get to it.
Anyway, so after Bashir patches up a burn, they go to the quarters to stay in for a while. Sisko orders Slim Jims for them all to eat.
It also looks like they're like, guys, please costume them as if they were in a terrible production of A Godspell. Go.
I think that's the direction on most of the humanoid species on Star Trek.
Like even the lead guest star, like look at that outfit.
Well, and that dress is a reuse from The Inner Light, the Next Generation, like legendary, fantastic episode of Next Generation.
Also, for such a huge starship, the duty-free shop sucks.
I don't want anything there. Yeah. There's probably no taxes though, so you got something. So you can buy something you don't want and just not pay taxes. So
remember every time we're like, money's on the screen. This time, less so.
Less so. It didn't look like an expensive.
When you've been on enough non-union, crappy background jobs like me, yeah, this reeks of the old. Hey, just bring some of your own costumes. Bring some stuff from home. We'll see if you got anything. That's what this reeks of. Just
tie it around your head. So you can give me like an alien. We're gonna put a bandana on you. It'll be fine.
Okay. Meanwhile, one of the extras, they're like, "Oh, put him in full trash can head outfit," and this guy's like, "What?
Right? They get
what is that?
Why did you make them the Skrreea?"
Oh boy.
So Cisco orders Slim Jims for them all.
Oh, I said asparagus, but okay.
They look like Slim Jims. So, of course, they're taking a big risk, right? That this type of food isn't poisonous to their species they've never seen before.
Well, you know.
Like, how the hell do they know?
I don't know. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Randy. So, Giant Square Hair keeps talking, and then the translator starts to work. She says her people need help and there's no time to waste. So apparently we discovered that there are 3 million people on the other side of the wormhole and they need to come through. We also learn that their culture is female dominated. Their men, according to the women, are too emotional to be leaders. Also, they might be 6.
Or like mentally regressed in some sort of way.
I don't know what's going on there. They've been searching for the wormhole that leads to a fabled home planet for the Skrreean people. And it sounds a lot like their prophecy is talking about Bajor. We learn from Odo that the station can hold 7,000 people, which means it's pretty empty at the moment with, 300 something? Also, if the station can hold 7,000 people, guys who know this better than I do, please let me know. Doesn't the Enterprise D, isn't that capable of at least temporarily holding 10,000 people? And isn't the station wildly bigger than the Enterprise D? The Enterprise D is giant. Probably ridiculously so. I saw there's a great YouTube video which sort of does the math on the square footage of that ship and how it's basically abandoned, basically empty.
That's cool.
So the station is that much bigger. I feel like it could hold more than 7,000 people. Anyway, the Skrreean, these people were oppressed before their oppressors were invaded by the Dominion.
So, mic drop moment. I've been teased the Dominion in a previous episode with Quark. I've been teased by my friends, so I had to stop them because I felt like spoiler was coming. So I was like, don't say anything else. Here I'm like, okay, so it's been a little hokey up to this point. First 10 minutes, a little hokey. I'm not like loving the caricature stuff. You know, maybe it was just my mood or whatever, but whatever. Business is picking up. Gonna learn about the Dominion. Shit's getting real. Super pumped. Let's see what happens.
Later, Squarehair is woken up by Kira. Apparently, the men there are part of her harem. So, well played. Which is
right, but wrong, right? Like, definitely that's the vibe this whole scene gives me. But then, don't at the end they refer to both these guys on the ship as her children?
No, only so there's 3 of them. One of them is her son, and the other 2 are in her harem.
Where's the third one?
He's not there in that screen. The third one is the one that tangles with Jake and Nog.
But he's the kid?
He's the kid.
And these 2 are okay, that is not clear. That
is
not clear to the viewer. And so the whole time I'm like, wait a second, is she banging her kids? What's happening?
No. I had that. I had the exact same thought because there's no characterization difference between any of these 3 dum-dums.
Right, and then I'm like, are they even like mature enough to bang? Because when she meets Kenny G, I'm like, oh, that's what's happening in this episode. Business is about to pick up with Kenny G. Insert your Kenny G spot joke. I'm not going to do it, but you can write your own, dear viewer.
Boo.
The whole sexual overarch, whatever, even remote plot is very badly done in this episode. Maybe it was a dum-dum, but I was like, what is happening? Are they kids? And then when they get in a scrum with Nog, they're like crawling on the floor again like dogs, and like it's so weird.
Which, it really is, because the idea that we would come across matriarchal societies, of course.
It's great.
And we did it before on Next Generation. Like, why wouldn't that happen? And why shouldn't that happen?
And their
That's
whole
great.
explanation for it is such a burn, a societal burn to our sort of patriarchy.
No, and
I think it's so well stated and done, but then they sort of muddy it with this bullshit, in my opinion.
No, I mean, and like, I like it as a commentary, especially on the original series. You have all of these, societies with subjugated female, and they're like dum-dums wearing nothing, wandering around just waiting for Kirk to grab them. Like, I get, so let's reverse it. Wonderful. Let's tell that story. But you're right. Like, I can't even tell if these people are like intelligent enough for consent, which makes it.
We're jumping the gun, but the reason it's a shame is because, once again, I think we're in one of those episodes where that thesis, that idea is really great. An exploration of it, I think, through science fiction lens would be perfect, because we can hold a mirror up to our society and juxtapose the power dynamic. However, this kind of makes it like, well, clearly these men shouldn't be leaders. There's clearly something wrong with them mentally and emotionally. Like,
right.
So,
yes, because what it says is like, all right. So the sexes aren't given equal opportunity or power, and like, it should be, because those guys are dumb.
Right. I mean, unless I mean, you could make an argument, I guess, that's the commentary, but it's not. It's not. That's too clumsy. So I think really ultimately it's just a missed opportunity, but we'll get more into that.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. So Kira says that a bunch more Skrreeans are going to arrive soon, and she also gives the woman a dress that she was talking about at the gift shop on the promenade. Turns out
I have to pick this bone while we're here too.
Okay, let's do it. Pick the bone.
I'm gonna make a bizarre analogy, but I'm going to use something you and I have talked about, deep cut. Do you remember early seasons of The Practice, Keith, where the Cameron Manheim character, Eleanor, they keep making clumsy references to her having trouble dating because she's a plus-size woman?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, what the hell does this have to do with anything? And like, it's a bad look. Every time we get into like Kira's dating life, I feel it's like a kind of a bad look. I mean, I guess it's just a passing moment here, but I don't know. I was like, I feel like she's just busy.
Have we gotten into her dating life?
They do here. She's like, oh, you have two men? Well, I just don't have time for. I'm like, it feels too girl talky, and I'm like, this is a episode feels like we're talking female empowerment. They had to make her like a little goofy girl. I don't know. I've been cranky, so maybe.
I wasn't looking at it from Kira's perspective. I actually liked Squarehead's like, yeah, I'm banging them. Like I was like, yeah, all right. That's like, if we're gonna sort of flip the things, like that's exactly what the conversation would be like. And I didn't hate that at all. Yeah, I didn't think about it from Kira's.
You mean these emotionally immature guys? Oh yeah, totally banging them.
Yeah. But like
these meat socks back here. I got my own Slim Jims.
Yeah, well, oh god, I snap into them every night.
Oh yeah. Well, what I really need is a man who can play an instrument.
But how many men out there talk like that constantly?
Yeah, you're right.
Like that's exactly what half of the men in America all they want.
Yeah, maybe this is more. Maybe the commentary is more on the nose than I'm giving it credit for.
But it is sort of like a dumb male fantasy going on here. So anyway, so she gives her the dress that she thought before the translator worked. She was saying she loved. Turns out she thought it was hideous. And
they have a good laugh about it.
They have a good forced laugh about it together.
Good bonding moment.
Yeah, and again, I liked it.
I did. I did like their bonding. Yes,
I like that idea, and again, the translator not working perfectly in real life, I think would happen constantly, and so there would be stuff like this all the time.
And I dig that. I dig that. Kira, she respects Kira also because she's a woman in power, which is as it should be. And Kira gives her a little. I think that's the scene where she's like, "Hey, you're the one who found it. I know you say you're just a farmer, but you can be more than that." Which is shades of when we had that Vedic on, and they were trying to.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
we head to the promenade. We get a great shot of the trash can lid head people, and they're kind of reptilian. That's awesome. Why couldn't they have been the Skrreeans? Money, budget, because they needed to have like 300 of them. That's 100% why. Meanwhile, Jake and Nog are chatting about girls. So apparently Jake had a date with a Dabo girl?
Are Dabo girls not strippers?
They're well, I mean, they're like Vegas.
They're showgirls, okay.
They're showgirls.
Good for Jake. Go get it. I mean, that costume ain't leaving anything to the imagination. So I guess those Dabo girls knew what they were getting into.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with being a stripper of any sort. But Jake's like 14. That's the issue. The issue is
hey, Keith, my dad had 2 kids at 14, at 15.
Okay.
They weren't me, and I don't think it was a good choice, but...
New information for Keith. We're going to talk about that offline. Anyway.
Basically, I'm saying my dad was Jake from Deep Space Nine.
Wow, that's awesome. Did he also wear jammies?
My mother's a Dabo girl.
Your mother's a Dabo girl, and your dad wore jammies everywhere he went. So apparently Jake is tutoring her in etymology, and Nog's outfit is insane. Look,
both their outfits are insane. That's insane.
They're both wearing like clown outfits.
Well,
hey, maybe that's why I don't have a Dabo girl.
The Halloween, yeah.
Because I'm not. Can you imagine what?
Mike, I really want you. You need a pop of color, Keith.
I need you to really imagine what I would look like in that outfit.
I don't want to do that. Let's move forward. Remind me, did you say that the guy playing Nog is like 20-something?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
That dental work is awesome. Imagine trying to talk through that.
It's impossible. It's like one of the incredible special skills that the Ferengis actors have to have, are be able to communicate through those teeth. So Nog and Jake spot one of the Skrreeans eating food off other people's table, without even, because they joke that he doesn't know how to use a replicator. Which, why would he? How would he? But again, like, what is the intelligence level of this? I don't know. Anyway, more Skrreean ships come through the wormhole, and Squarehair welcomes them all aboard. They flood onto the station, and there are more square-haired women and dum-dum men. So many extras. Odo is not happy. Sisko is pleased, though. They're experiencing their first taste of freedom. I wish I could free my tongue. So, in Act 2, we begin. Nog and Jake are being chased by a Skrreean boy, and Odo catches them, and apparently Nog sprayed them with a stinky vapor.
So fart spray?
It sprayed them with fart spray, which is does not speak well of Nog and Jake. That's really shitty.
It is pretty shitty. I mean, it's Odo better than melting Odo.
That's true. Well, they didn't melt Odo.
Well,
they filled his bucket with oatmeal and pretended it was Odo.
Oh yeah, it's better than fart spray. Okay.
Well, but but Odo at least is an adult, and they're not, and not like a
Skrreean refugee.
A Skrreean refugee. Yeah, exactly. They're just like, oh, let's go torture some poor refugee who's experiencing his first taste of freedom. Odo grabs Nog by the earballs and takes him to the security office. Nog checks out the wanted posters, which are pretty cool. Quark arrives to bail Nog out because they spent too much on extras to pay Max Grodenchik to be in this episode. Quark is super racist against the Skrreeans, repulsed by their admittedly gross flaking skin. In the reading the background on this, they did this intentionally, like having flaking skin and making them kind of unpleasant and gross was an intentional thing by the writers to try and make us uncomfortable, which is interesting. When we get to the end of this and trying to figure out, like, what is this about? What are they trying to say? What is the story? It's an interesting little wrinkle there.
I think it's important because I think that they, in my opinion, and I don't want to spoil it yet, the theme of the episode well, they talk about the execution also, but the theme of the episode really has two branches to support it, and this is one of them. That sort of being disgusted or grossed out by, or physically
repulsed
by the immigrating species is part and parcel to something else. But we'll get to that. We're not
sure
there
is. So Quark and Odo keep flirting for a bit. Then Kenny G is playing in the packed quarks while the Skrreean dum-dum men bump around. The original Squarehead lady has been elected leader. Kira shows up, and Squarehair is nervous about being the leader, but Kenny G comes up and gives her a CD of himself like it's Times Square. I've ever been in Times Square,
That's
folks.
Exactly it. Dude, I have one in my lifetime, and if this is for people who've been to New York, or maybe it's happened in your metropolitan city, but these people, these artists or whatever, they give you like a burned CD of their stuff, and you end up, if generally you just ignore them as long as possible, or you say you got to be somewhere, or you literally run away.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one time in your life, usually, at least it was for me, where
everybody does it once.
I couldn't escape. I just couldn't escape, and so I got engaged in the conversation. And by the end of it, I was like, I had to give him $10 for the CD, which I have somewhere.
That's the whole deal.
And then I still don't know if there's any music on it, but I'm sure there's not. But GD, that is exactly what this is, space version. Although, I mean, you got the vibes too, right? Like they were totally gonna bone.
I think so, yeah. He says, as a Bajoran, he understands what it's like to be a displaced people, which makes sense. This naturally gives Squarehair the idea.
Keith, could you make me a little of your CD? Could you make me a little hologram of your CD? I really want to put it on this mid-console.
Okay, great. I'll just put myself on one of my CDs and rotate it around.
Yeah, I really want to put that on the console. Holy God, that's funny.
I mean, I do have CDs and an action figure of myself.
Yeah.
So
hey, we're moving on up, man. If you had told 8-year-old Keith you'd have both of those things, he'd have crapped himself on the floor.
If my 8-year-old self could see this rig and the action figures, my goodness.
1,000 subscribers.
Be like, oh, I have so many things. Oh, but I'm old and fat. Oh,
hey, you know what? You made it past 12. That's a big win.
That's true. I have a cat. That's the good stuff.
We better keep going. We're going down a well we can't get back out of.
So on the promenade, Jake and Nog run into the Skrreean man boy they had harassed. How old is he supposed to be?
I don't know.
Because sometimes he seems like he's 14. And this is where I was like, is he part of the harem? So I had the question too.
Yeah, who's she banging? Who's her kid? Who's she spanking? Who's she spanking good? Who's she spanking bad? I don't know.
So yeah, it's definitely her kid. But at this point in the episode, I did not know that he was her kid either. Whatever his deal is, he's pissed, and they start a ridiculous fight, which basically means rolling around on the floor until Quark breaks it up.
But we do get to see what I think is either great direction or a great acting choice by Nog. He has his own version of the Nog of the what's his dad's name? Rom scream. Which I thought was such a great familial tie.
There's lots of hissing and shouting. Sort of both of them do it.
I mean, these cats are right out of an episode of Zoobly Zoo. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but that's what this looks like.
It does. Yeah.
Zoobly Zoo, magic and wonder are waiting for you. Ben Vereen.
Yeah. Also, why haven't they changed their clothes? Isn't this like 2 days later?
That's very expensive, Keith. We only got a couple days on set. Let's go.
I understand. But the good news is, after we see this ridiculous fight,
a lot of hissing. Yeah,
lots of weird hissing. Although Quark is pretty intimidating looking when he really wants to be. That's cool. But meanwhile, Cisco and Dax have found a good M-class planet to settle the Skrreeans on. They go tell Squarehair the news, but she's already decided they want to settle on Bajor. It is already a planet of sorrow and meets their prophecy. So,
is that it? That was the only criteria? Not like, hey, is there room? Is there good fertile farmland? Like, you would think they would have some better criterion than just like, are people like, is this sorrow?
Is it like shitty?
Yeah.
Let's go. Yeah, that feels like there should be more criteria. So the next act, we see a gazillion ships next to the station. The Bajorans have arrived with news. The provisional government is definitely going to say hell no to the refugees.
But that's not before Kenny G's like, hey, could you slip Big Hair my room key?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. It's like, it's kind of like a casino, right? It's like, it is a room key. We've all worked in a casino as an artist once or twice.
Or a cruise ship.
Yep. So Quarks, to be clear, just I slipped no one my card. I slipped no one nothing because I'm me.
No, there are weird people on cruise ships though who like are. There are on occasion elderly gentlemen who think you should entertain their elderly wives.
Really? Wow, I haven't been offered that particular upgrade package on a cruise ship, but there's a good story. We have to do that later. Anyway, so
did you enjoy the show, sir? Thank you. Enjoy the buffet. Bye.
So Quark's wife and a random Vedic announce that indeed they are going to say no. The Bajorans are worried that they can't take care of the Skrreeans because they're just barely getting on their feet themselves. And Sisko tries to get them to consider the other planet. Now, Squarehair appeals to Kira, who reluctantly has to agree with the Bajoran ministers. And Squarehair is distraught. So, yeah, this is the part where, like, I can see we're trying to tell a story about refugees, trying to tell a story about immigration. We're trying to tell a story about, helping people coming from other places who need them. But I'm not sure what the point of view is here yet.
Well, I actually think that is the strongest part of it, is that the point of view is that it is incredibly complicated and that it is a difficult moral decision, moral quandary. And there are, I wouldn't say equal weighted, but fairly balanced arguments for both sides. I think that they thread that needle fairly well. It is a lot of people. It is a risk. And I like that the Bajorans, instead of just being played as total hypocrites, I like that they bring up the point that if this was to fail, even though they're not asking for handouts, if this was to fail, we would feel morally responsible to help, and that could put us at risk. And I think that moral gray area is the strongest part of the episode, because if we David E. Kelly'd this with too strong a viewpoint, I feel like it moves into a trite territory that this somehow somewhat avoids.
Well, I think this, yes, I agree. I think this would have been much more impactful and made much more sense if the Skrreeans had a better reason to want Bajor as opposed to this other planet. Right? They don't have any good reason for it. They have a vague prophecy, which one person thinks like, that seems right. Let's just go with that. But it's vague. It's not tied to anything. You could have either Bajor is way better for us than this other planet, at which point they had a logical reason for wanting to do that. Totally get that. Or let's say it was a spiritual thing. Let's say it was a prophecy. If you really leaned into that and made it much more obvious that this really is, we really believe it is the prophecy for this reason, this reason, this reason. The way it's outlined in this, they don't really have a good reason to want to pick Bajor over this other planet.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think the show is really weakened by that, because if they had a good reason, it puts everybody in a more difficult position. It heightens the drama. It just doesn't make any sense.
I think it's missing another detail that I want to save to the end of our discussion, but if you could help me put a pin in that and bring that up. Mike, you said it was missing something else.
It's never going to happen.
I'm going to try.
Well, I'll try. I promise. So Squarehair is distraught. And later on the promenade, there's a line for the replicators. Jake tries to go make nice with the guy they fought with. He reinforces the kid reinforces that he doesn't want to go to Draylon too, but no reason as to why. Kira goes to visit Squarehair, who was pissed at her for not supporting her desire to settle on Bajor. She says she was betrayed, but Kira sticks to her guns and wants to stay friends. Squarehair is hell no. Cisco calls, and says that Tumak, the son, stole a ship and is headed to Bajor. Oh, Tumak is her son. Totally missed that. Naturally, the ship is broken and it's gonna blow up.
Well, they said that in the beginning. At least that they laid that breadcrumb in the top. They were leaking fart goo or something.
They're leaking fart goo?
It was like radiation.
Is that what they said?
Like the ship, when it came through the wormhole, it was like, it's leaking radiation. So at least they had planted that seed and it wasn't sort of just like a plot point out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's fair. But again, like, he just left. He didn't take his people with him. He just went by himself. Anyway.
Yeah, like what was he going to do there?
I don't know. None of it makes any sense. His mom calls and tries to get him to turn off the engines. He doesn't respond, and they are surrounded by Bajoran security ships, and they're being ordered to shoot them down. We don't see any of this on the screen because, money.
But we do see two green dots and a red dot. We can put it together.
Green dot, red dot. No, I mean, way cheaper. Despite their attempt to prevent it, a battle starts and the Skrreean ship is blown up. Good performance by Squarehair.
Yeah, totally.
Don't know why.
For nothing.
Plus,
they didn't even make that character like. I thought the scene with Jake, it was going to redeem. They were going to become friends. We're going to learn. Oh, he's just normal like everybody else. Blah blah. But they don't do any sort of like character building or redemption there to make this.
So we don't care.
Yeah, the stakes are nil. Is it to give Big Hair a little more ground that we sort of like we buy the betrayal thing? Because the betrayal thing too, it feels like she as a leader or as an intelligent person should recognize that their decision, while she might not agree with it, was founded on a whole council got together. They had a whole.
Well, and
it wasn't flippant.
And it wasn't like we do, right? That many in our country would like with refugees and people trying to come into the country. It's not like, fuck off. It's, here, let's try to give you this. Let's try to give you this thing it's equally as good, and here's why, and here are the reasons. So yeah, anyway. Anyway, the Skrreeans are leaving, and Kira keeps trying to convince Squarehair that she's right, kind of ignoring the fact that her son just died.
She does get in some sick burns, though. Like, the whole monologue she gives is an excellently written and realized thesis of what the episode, I think, thinks it's about.
Well, it's what it should have been about.
Yes.
She finishes with a monologue that is pretty well argued. The Bajorans are afraid they can't take care of the Skrreeans because of a famine. But the Skrreeans are farmers, and maybe could have helped Bajor rather than be a burden.
And this is the point Mike thinks was also missed in the rest of the episode. Had we established, do you remember that episode from season 1 where Kira, of all folks, goes down to this planet that's about to be obliterated to get energy?
Power, right, yeah. The moon, yeah.
And they show this guy in his hut or whatever, and we learn, and he's like building a house and blah, blah, blah. But like something like that, where they establish that that these people are really great farmers, and they were able to, if all they had to do was put some exposition in the beginning, they had taken a dead planet and re-fertilized it. And like, if we show that they're expert farmers, it gives weight to the decision that the Bajorans have to make. They have to weigh. It's the potential symbiosis that they could have had. But instead, they don't do that. So all she says is, we're good, we're farmers. That's all they say the whole episode. We're farmers, we're farmer people. We could have, I don't know, it just missing. They spent so much time I know 45 minutes is a short period of time, but they spent so much time on the dumb boys and some weird plot points that are unnecessary when they could have focused on the two things we talked about. The farmer stuff. Real well said, Mike. The
farmering, yes.
Their expertise as farmers, and what was the plot point you just talked about that was missing? Oh, the Bajorans the decision.
The Skrreeans having a good reason to want
Yes.
to pick Bajor as opposed to the other bloods.
There was time in this episode if you had trimmed some fat
absolutely
to talk about those things. But regardless,
Absolutely.
we do get the sick burn monologue at the end.
Well, and if this point had been made 20 minutes ago, and we have an argument about this, it's much more impactful than this like. I think she makes an excellent point, and we see this, especially in the States where we are, how benefited we are as a country, as a culture, as a whatever, by the refugees that we accept, by the people we allow from other countries, by the immigrants. We are made better by all of these people, and there's a great point to be made about that. You make the episode about people who are sort of xenophobic and don't want to have other people in other cultures, and they're kind of gross and they've got the skin flaky thing, so I don't want them because they're ew. Versus, actually, if you let them come in, they can help you with all these things. And we have this great discussion about immigration, about refugees. But we didn't have that. It was really weird.
And it's further undercut, I think, in this moment, because rather than have her say these things matter-of-factly, because they're very powerful statements, I think they were more powerful if she had said them to the Bajoran Council, or if we had seen her argue her case in front of the Bajorans. Instead, it's this personal sort of animosity towards Kira because she betrayed her, and it doesn't seem backed up in anything.
Well, and the betrayal is sort of based on entitlement, right? It's sort of like, I'm entitled to come and put 3 million people on your list. Now, it sounds weird for me to say that because I'm very much in favor of immigration and refugees, that kind of stuff. But they're not entitled to come in. Like, you can ask for it. You can make a point. Here's how I can help you. Here's why this is beneficial. Here's how you can help us with humanitarian aid. You can do all of these things. But
science fiction actually, it makes it a little bit more difficult to draw a straight parallel, because here on Earth, there is limited resource. And that resource being space. Whereas in the future, or in this universe, there is unlimited space. There are quadrants. There are
just going to give them a whole planet.
Yeah, so it's hard to draw the direct parallel there. So the points
and
they're trying to make, the mirror they're trying to hold up is
right.
warped.
And the choice for and this is maybe the whole problem here. The choice for the Skrreeans here is not live in the oppressive hellscape they were in before, or be on Bajor. Right? They've already escaped the oppressive hellscape. The choice is M-class planet all to themselves, that's great, or going into somebody else's backyard. It's not, if the choice is like, we're going to starve to death and be oppressed and die, it's kind of shitty if you don't let us onto this province on your planet. There's a good argument. But it's like, I want to be there even though I have this other thing where option B might even be better than option A, but because I've got a vibe about your backyard and I feel like it's the one, it's nowhere near the strength of the argument that they should have in order to have this episode make any sense, or make the point they want to make. Yeah. All right, blah, 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 blah. She gets on the airlock and heads off. Let's do a vocab quiz.
Yeah, totally. At some point.
I got fired up.
Yep.
And now it's time for Mike and Deglio's Star Trek Vocabulary Quiz. All right, this one is easy. I don't even know if it's particular to Star Trek, but tell me, what is an M-class planet, Mike?
Yeah, it's a planet, Keith, that is of a certain size, the M size. I mean, it's not a jumbo candy. It's not the king size Snickers, but it's a fun size Snickers for Halloween.
More importantly, it has an atmosphere suitable for humanoid life.
Yeah, of course.
Such as oxygen and nitrogen and such.
But it's got nuts. Yes. It's got nuts, so if you're allergic to nuts, not for you.
Yeah, I can have the nuts. I can't have the coconut. So the almond joys in my giant bag of candy, which I'm going to eat by myself because there's no kids coming. I can't eat the almond joys. All right, your next one is Plix-Tick-a-Plick.
Oh, man. Nog says this at some point. I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh, I forget.
Plix Tick-a-Plick. Well, of course, Mike, he's a Regrunion.
Oh, yeah. Remember John Regrunion? Played for the Eagles. Defensive player. Great guy.
John Grunion, yeah.
It was a joke, Keith. It was a joke.
Oh. John Gruden. He was a coach, and then that didn't go well.
Nope.
Okay, he should have Plix Tick-a-Plicked his emails.
Is that terrible. It? Is that all we got?
Yeah, let's go. Let's come along home.
Okay, yeah.
For the love of God, please.
Count to 4, AlamarEmmys, then one more. AlamarEmmys, it's AlamarEmmys time!
Okay, Mike. Everyone, tip one back here in Quarks. We got some Kenny G playing in the background. We're relaxed, we're chill, and we're going to discuss whether there were any wormholes in the plot.
For me, there's probably a couple. One, why Bajor? That's like the big one. We talked about it ad nauseum, so I'm not going to like double down. But why Bajor? I get it. A planet of sorrow. But I mean, this reeks of I didn't do my research for my book report. Like you just pick one theme out from like the first chapter and just like hammer that home. Yeah, you have a prophecy
So
that's
good at
like,
that.
yeah, you have a prophet. I'm like an expert. You have a prophecy that says a planet of sorrow. But as we learned in this and many other episodes, there are lots of planets, Keith. You know what? There's nobody living on that M-class planet that Cisco found. So that's sorrow. We could find reasons to make it sorrowful.
It's lonely.
Yeah,
it's lonely.
A lonely planet. That's so it's perfect. So that's a wormhole. Wormhole 2. I know that it's not important, but like, who's she banging? The sun. Well, it wasn't clearly defined. I'm calling it a wormhole. And on top of that, I'm putting the it's not defined as to the men what their status as beings are. Are they a lesser?
Are they compromised in some fashion?
Are they compromised, or is that just bad writing, bad directing, or just a bad concept in general? Not sure.
Well, also there is a story to tell. If you want to tell a story about how these oppressed people, the consequences of oppression is and we're seeing that in sort of like people living on the fringes of society, scraping to survive, integrating back into a society that has everything that they need, how difficult that is. Like, there's a story to tell there, but
we don't get that backstory.
There.
So, like, that, I guess that counts as wormhole then. Like, do we know how long the occupation, are they still being occupied? Are they, like, did they escape and they're still escaping? Are they being hunted? How long has it been since they had been, like, none of those details are really fleshed out and actually could be.
And they kind of got rescued by the Dominion?
I don't know. All I know is that it sounds like all 3 million of them got off world, which is a Herculean undertaking.
So
and they're just like waiting at the wormhole. Nobody's chasing them. Like what is the story there?
I guess they were oppressed on their planet. The Dominion came in, kicked out the oppressors, and obviously allowed them to leave. And they just sort of picked up and left.
Right,
in
the
search of a sorrow
Dominion
planet.
were either attacking or decided that the people that were invading them were something. They got them out. So the Dominion, we don't know. We still don't know if the Dominion is a benevolent
good guy
force
or a bad
malevolent
guy.
force. Yeah. Okay. Well, so that's all there's a lot of wormholes.
Yeah. Well, book report. Did I ever tell you, Mike, how I was amazing in class, never having read any of the material? My strategy for getting an A+ in participation, and always looking like I'd read it really well, and yet never having read anything.
Keith, this is a superpower we both share.
So kids, because lots of like high school kids here listening, if you haven't done the reading and you're going to have a class discussion about it, here's what you do. Always be the second person to raise your hand. Always immediately, vociferously
disagree
raise your
with
hand
what the first person said.
Absolutely. Disagree vehemently with whatever the first thing that gets said. And you can't just disagree. You have to make it political in some fashion. You have to sort of trump it a little bit. So you have to like tie it to some sort of political idea, and then you start a fire and watch it burn, and therefore no one will know you didn't do the reading. So basically just be Trump.
Now, hold on. Looking back, Keith, if I could do it differently, I have another solution.
Ooh, what's that?
Read it.
What?
This is a portion of life where you don't have anything else to do.
Mike, I disagree. Everyone's out there trying to make people read as if reading really makes you... Does readings make you more intelligent?
Keith, what we didn't know at the time, what we were actually learning by not doing the reading and just knowing how to argue and to talk nonsense was we were polishing our podcasting skills.
I think that's... skill. Well, I mean, it really depends. You listeners... Would you have preferred that we just done the reading and shut the hell up?
We're just bankers.
Oh yeah. Anyway, yes.
NFTs, y'all. All right.
I agree with you on all the wormholes there. I mean, I think I already said it. It's just sort of like there were maybe 4 different stories to tell here and 4 different things you could have said, and because of the wormholes and the plot, the architecture for none of it was set up. Let's talk about best moment before we do the whole.
Yeah. So, it's funny. The best part of the episode for me is the very end. It's almost as if they wrote the episode backwards. They wrote that big monologue first, which is sort of the thesis of the whole, what they thought they wanted the episode to be about, and then working backwards, they didn't. It's like they got all the ingredients for the soup. They knew what they wanted the chili to taste like. And they got the best beans, and they got the best veggies, and they got all the stuff. But then they never put the broth in. That's what it feels like. It feels like the best stew with no broth. And so the best part of the episode for me is that blistering monologue about hypocrisy at the end. The problem is that the Bajorans didn't really act with a lot of hypocrisy. They set up the pieces for an analyzation of hypocrisy and of immigration and such, but they never really they don't really make the strongest argument. So I like that end monologue. I like her performance of it, and I like the themes of it. I don't feel like it really described the episode in any way. So I'll just snapshot that moment, and I'll say that's my favorite.
I completely agree with you that was the best moment in the episode. However, I think you got your analogy completely backwards.
Okay, they had only broth and no giblets
because they didn't have any ingredients. They did not have the ingredients for chili. They didn't work backwards. They worked forwards. They threw a bunch of random ingredients in a pot. Had no idea what it was going to be, and at the end you've got a big bowl of boiling nonsense. You're like, it's chili, it's totally chili, that's what it is, it's chili. I would totally want, and then I'm going to make a really concise, only tangential point arguing about why chili is important in America, like I'm doing when I 3/4 of the way through, I was just throwing random stuff in a bucket and I didn't know what it was. That's sort of what I feel like here. Let's give out some stem bolts.
Yeah, okay, so we've already been in the discussion. I'll just say it this way. It's a shame because it's really an episode of missed opportunity. Because there are two tenets, I think, that under the hypocrisy umbrella here that I think they were going for. They were going for we're on this melting pot of a space station. We are part of Starfleet tangentially for some characters, directly for other characters, whose whole goal is to sort of, in this space station, is to sort of make first contact of new species through the wormhole and also create this melting pot and foster some semblance of unity. Yet, here's a situation where these new species coming on and they're kind of gross and there's an influx of them. There's a lot of them and we don't know how to handle it. And isn't that hypocritical? And how do we deal with that? And also the Bajorans, who have had a directly similar, in many ways, situation where they were occupied and they were kicked out and made refugees. And shouldn't they be the first to want to help this species of like situationed folk? The problem is they don't really do either of those things, right? They instead of making, it's not just that they're gross, it's also that they're behaving in a certain way that's not particularly accepted, but also it just would have worked better as an idea if the point is we're holding a mirror up to us.
Right.
They don't do it effectively because they don't make the choice, the big choice at the end of what should we help them on Bajor or not, meaty enough. There's no real reason Bajor should do it, and it is an imposition, right? So it is a moral quandary, and they make a what seems to be rational, difficult decision, and they express as much. It's not as if they were xenophobic and pushing them off. So the idea of hypocrisy sort of doesn't work. The idea of what was the other point I had to make? There's another one. Well, I'll stick with that. Oh, yes. The idea of a matriarchal society juxtaposed to our patriarchy could have been a really interesting idea to examine through the lens of science fiction, but they ham-fist it. First of all, it's not really about that in any way. She's not, no, because we don't really get to see any of the other leaders, the matriarchal leaders. It's not like they have a council of any sort. It's just this one farmer, and she's now hey, you're the president because you went through the wormhole first. It's like if we had just made Neil Armstrong the czar of Earth, right? Because he was first. Right. But then we don't really explore it other than we have the men are dum-dums and they're sniffing around, and isn't that funny? Haha. And you're like
just running around like licking everything.
So it's worse than bad. It's a missed opportunity because they bring up two really meaty two subjects that could really benefit from looking through the lens of science fiction, and they don't do either. That's not a flaw of the performances. Are all, I don't want to say all. Some of them not. There wasn't a lot for the dum-dum men to do. I feel bad for them. In fact, I thought the lead guest stars were great. Kenny G was something happening. That's this whole episode. Like you said, it's just like, okay, that's happening. The whole time I kept waiting. And the worst part for me, Keith, is they drop the Dominion and you're like, yes, this is it. Here is the big thing. Nothing. No information. I don't think they know yet, to be honest. It feels like they're like, we got this concept and we'll get there once we figure it out. So it's worse than bad. It's just missed opportunities left and right. 67 stem bolts.
Yeah. I mean, this is an episode that I always think back and imagine it to be better than it, or have more to say than it does. I always think back like, ugh, that one. But like it had something important to say, so whatever, I'll go and watch it. But it really doesn't.
It sure thinks it does.
It's trying to, but it's trying to make a bunch of analogies which don't hold up, right? And it's all really comes down to, like you said, holding up a mirror about how we treat refugees, whether or not we welcome in refugees. But it doesn't hold up because of the alternatives, right? Because you have the alternative of your own freaking planet. We're giving you a planet for free. Just here, take this planet, right? Which apparently is fertile and great and better than by far better than what you've had, and frankly, apparently better than the land they wanted on Bajor, right? So why wouldn't you take it, right? So you wouldn't take it because you had some sort of another tie to Bajor's land. So, all right. So if we're trying to make it to our time, is it a culture that had lived there before and it had been pushed out 500 years ago? No. Is it land? Are they putting them on land that's more convenient for the occupier? For the people in power, and that somehow worse. Like, we're just going to put you here because you look like. Are we making a parallel to say how we treated the indigenous people in our country and all over the world. Like, okay, so you're like, oh, so we're pushing indigenous people onto land that we don't want, and then when we realize, oh, we want that, so we're going to push them off somewhere else. Well, it's not that either, right? There's no insurrection happening. It's literally, and we're not, saying what I did before, giving them no choice, saying that the alternative is not we help you or you live in an oppressive regime where there's danger or whatever, like we are with a lot of immigration today. It's none of that. And so the entitlement or the sense of betrayal from the Skrreeans makes them seem unreasonable, as opposed to we're not rooting for them anymore. They're kind of shitty, right? And it's and I want to root for them. They've been oppressed. They need help. They're refugees. Like, and so why do you make them? What is the point you're trying to make by making them kind of unreasonable and kind of shitty?
What if, back to my kind of thought, what if you had opened the episode and and there's a meeting of the Bajoran Council, and they're talking about how the famine is really kicking up and how there's like this whole uninhabitable space that they want to use, but they can't figure out how to fertilize the land and blah, blah. Like, we create that potential need or the potential help that they could have made, because then you have, at least we understand the back and forth. But
well, and that would be great, right? So like, we have a need, these people can help us, but we're not going to do that because of racism, say, right? Like with immigration, right? We need them. We need their help. We have people come all the time and help us, and like our food wouldn't get to us or whatever would, like it, but we don't want them because they're a different color, right, or they speak a different language. All right, so there's another story. It told none of those stories. I wanted it to be about something, but it never really holds up. And so in the end, I'm not even sure. I usually say it was well-intentioned, but it didn't live up to blah, 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 blah. I'm not sure what the intention was with this. What is what point do we imagine they were trying to make with this? Because none of the analogies hold up. We don't really have a parallel for, oh, we just have this empty continent that's beautiful and lush, and we just don't want it, so why don't you go there as opposed to in my backyard? We don't have a parallel for that.
I mean, I guess you could kind of you could cite Navajo Nation or some, like the reservation, the giant reservation there. Like you could, but we'd have to shoehorn it in. It's just not. It's not.
But we didn't push them off of their planet.
Yeah,
like we didn't.
It's not elegant. It's not they don't make any elegant.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And so therefore making them unpleasant is what I think really muddies what even their intention was.
Well, that's also seen, Keith, that failure is also seen in the final scene with Jake and Dum Dum 3 before he goes off to commit suicide for reasons, or not, you know what I mean? He ends up committing suicide or being killed. Suicide by police or by Bajoran patrol or whatever. The final scene where Jake, awesome character development for Jake, I think, is trying to play the Cisco, right? He's
like, you know what? Sorry, that was shitty.
He's trying to mediate more so than any other person on the station with these people. I think it's a microcosm of the bigger story. And yet, instead of finding a little bit of common ground, which would then make us care in the next scene where he dies, they make him sort of be shitty to Jake.
And and with the sense of like, I want to be in this random place I've never heard of and never been to before, so much more than this other full planet. I'm gonna kill my. I don't know. It's weird.
Or maybe make the point. I don't want to be on. I didn't want to leave home. Like
right.
I don't know.
No, exactly. Or there's more tying them to Bajor. Right.
Keith, I love
the
Deep Space
prophecy
Nine,
is exactly right.
But this episode, failures abound.
Not good. Not good. So you get. I gave Second Sight 39 stem bolts.
Yeah. So you're definitely.
I gotta give this one 35 self-sealing stem
Man.
bolts.
We're dating on a different scale. So that's not a good average.
No, it's not a good average. Definitely not a good average. Okay, well, that's there we go. We've definitely gone through a valley in the season. But next week we are going to be discussing rivals. So hold
Keith,
on to your hats.
Is there a peak on the way?
There is definitely a peak on the way. I'm not going to say that the next one is a peak or not a peak because I don't do spoilers. But there are peaks coming. You can look into the distance, and if you look into the distance, we have Everest in the background. So Don't you worry. So, folks, thank you so much for watching. Keith and Mike watch Deep Space Nine. Check out our other shows. Look at my Star Trek toys. Look at K&M Geekly, where if you thought this discussion was completely out of nonsense and disorganized, K&M Geekly is for sure your show. Also, you can join our good friends at patreon.com/K&M, spell out that and get all sorts of more bonus material, more of us talking, because Lord knows that's what the world needs. Mike, any final thoughts here on Halloween? We're recording this on Halloween.
No. I wish I could go as Quark for Halloween, but I am not going to spend 3 hours in the makeup chair. That's not going to do it.
You're also not going to go anywhere for Halloween.
I'm going trick-or-treating with my sister's kids for an hour. And then I'm coming back to watch Game 3 of the World Series, Go Phils.
What is your costume, Mike?
My costume's going to be Phillies hat, lights off in front, because I realized as much as I'd like to hand out candy, I'm not going up and down the stairs. Hell no. So, my neighborhood's doing a cool thing. There's like a little orange lanyard that you hang from your door if you're giving out candy. No orange lanyard, no candy.
So smart.
Yeah, except, if I'm a kid, I'd be like, wherever I don't see the orange lanyard, egging.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was in an apartment building where we put like a little sign on the door. It said like, come trick or treat. And we put the sign on the door. Nobody came.
Well, that's sad.
So, I don't know. We'll see. I put a pumpkin out front. I'm going to put some skulls on the stoop.
You could have the Skrreeans could have come to that apartment. It's an apartment of sorrow.
They would have been screeing in.
I Skrreean, you Skrreean, we all Skrreean for candy.
Okay, folks. Let us please mercifully let you have the rest of your day. Till then, this has been Keith and Mike Watch Deep Space Nine. Thank you for watching K&M Entertainment. If you enjoyed our particular brand of nonsense, please like and subscribe. Or become one of our patrons at patreon.com/K&M.